Hi, welcome to episode 53 of the Dodgeball Marketing Podcast, where we talk about all things digital marketing, digital advertising, and such.
Yep.
My name is Chris.
Hey, I'm Michael.
And today, Michael, we're going to talk about site maintenance items, 5 site maintenance items that you can do that improve SEO.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about SEO on this podcast, and a lot of it has to do with creating content, changing content on the page, a lot of things that users see on the website. These are some of them are people that can see, but a lot of them are just what I would call maintenance items. Just cleaning up things where they need to be cleaned up. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
And Michael, let's take the first one here.
Yeah, sure thing. So some of these are kind of lower priority, but they're important for user experience, but also important for how search engines see websites. So number one, make sure your site is ADA compliant. So the Americans with Disabilities Act also influences how people can access information on a website.
Yeah.
And it's important. And this is a signal for search engines. So can people with disabilities use your website? There are a lot of different tools for folks with either hearing impairment or vision impairment to use the internet. And so if you use accessible.com, they have a way that you can run your site through a tool and get a checklist and start to resolve problems. And then, of course, after you make changes, you can make sure those are propagated to the internet and then rerun the test. And so these things, they're not always things that we see. Sometimes, something like having alt text on an image, it's not something that if you just go look at your website, you're going to necessarily notice, oh, we're missing that bit of extra code related to this image. So it's really important to have a true testing protocol to understand whether or not your website is in good shape and you're doing everything you can do for search engines, because this is not something where if you go look at the website and it looks okay, you're going to catch it. Yeah. So, and there are a lot of improvements to SEO that fall into that category of things that you don't see when you go to the website, but they're totally broken from the point of view of a search engine. So when search engines are indexing your website, they're using hundreds of different factors, and ADA compliance is one of these. Plus, you just don't want to be a bad citizen of serving all your community. One of our folks who does a lot of writing for GoEps and even helps produce this podcast. Her name's Beth, and she's awesome. And she uses a wheelchair, and it's not something that comes up day to day, but she's very aware of sort of how disabilities can affect usability of a different company and their offers and services, whether it's their facilities or the way they're just handling the way they do things. Mm-hmm. So putting on the glasses of saying, hey, we're going to go through and run this tool and see it from this perspective can be really helpful. Yeah. And you just want to be a good citizen of this thing too, and make sure that you're not involuntarily cutting out a portion of your audience. Mm-hmm. These another way to refer to handicapped people is customers. So, if you want to kind of get politically correct and say differently abled, that's fine. The phrase I like is customers. And so this is kind of like a little joke Beth and I have had is, hey, these are customers. Don't cut out your audience. So we think that's a good way to think about it. So yeah, number one, ADA compliance.
That's good. So I can take number 2 here. Make sure your site is W3C compliant. So W3C, check me, Michael.
Yeah. Yep.
World Wide Web Consortium.
Yep.
Okay. So this is kind of the I might bumble this here. It's a governing body that oversees the development of CSS, JavaScript, and a lot of the conventions that surround website programming languages.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of the internet is very Wild West when it comes to defining how everything should work. There really, for the internet, there really is not one central planning committee that makes decisions for everything about the internet.
Right.
It's really a number of different groups of organizations, but one of the choke points is the World Wide Web Consortium, and they're basically creating a little bit of a common system for how code should be displayed to browsers so that browsers can work.
And that's how we get updates to CSS, like style sheets.
Oh, sure,
right? Yeah. Okay. So I think
and how stuff gets retired.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what can happen here with your website is you have a developer that coded something in CSS3 or CSS2 or whatever, and then as time goes on, those languages are updated, and some of the stuff is retired, like you said. And so stuff on your website, if you don't continually update your code to the new standard, it could break things on your website.
Yeah.
Right. And so we've got a website here you can go to, or actually just Google HTML CSS checker.
Yeah.
And the first site that comes up, you can actually put your URL into that site, and it'll show you all the ways. And if you've got HTML, CSS, JavaScript issues where you're using outdated code that's not current, it'll show you those, and you can just show those to your developer and have them fixed.
Yeah. It's one of those things where if you're not careful, you can overemphasize this point and start to fixate on it. So every website has some of these little problems, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it breaks for everybody, but it's just if you're trying to do everything that you can for search engines, this is a good one to do.
Good.
Yeah. Next up, remove duplicate meta descriptions. Meta descriptions are a bit of text that are associated with each page on your website, and it's quite common. For us, GoEps, parent company of Dodgeball Marketing, works a lot with Bullhorn Media, Chris's company. And when we take in a website to do SEO at GoEps, it is often the case that we will run it through a handful of initial scans, and we'll often find on a website that has, say, 1,000 pages, we'll often find that 100 of those pages have letter for letter, pixel for pixel, the same description of the page. Well, that's not true. You don't have 100 pages on the website that do the same thing.
Yeah.
What's happened there is a website got launched or migrated at some point, and there was a good, clean look at meta descriptions. And then over the life of the site, people started to publish new pages, and they would depend on their eyes instead of a workflow to decide if the page was good and done. And when they were doing that, they might have gone to the page, looked at it and said, yep, the page is looking good. And in the back end of their CMS, their content management system, or somewhere in there, there was probably a field for meta description. And they might have duplicated a previous page to get a little bit of a head start on creating the new page, or they might have just left it blank. And the system may have generated something that is essentially placeholder text. But those duplicate meta descriptions mean that you've missed an opportunity to tell the internet what that page is about.
Yep.
Meta descriptions are a little bit of text that search engines are looking at to say, what's this website about? The meta description can include important keywords. It can also tell search engines a little bit about how relevant the content of the page is to the page title and the page URL. So along with the text of the page that a user sees, the meta description is another bit of text. And so if these things are all wonky and they're not in sync with each other in terms of the keywords that are used, it's a signal to search engines that maybe this one's not done cooking yet. Maybe we don't know what this page is about.
Yeah.
And so these meta descriptions, what you want to do is you want to go through those and make sure that each of them are good. And there's another important thing that meta descriptions do. These are the text that will show in the search results page for a search result. So if you have a page on your site, maybe it's a services page or a subservice page or a localization page or a blog post or your home page, it's that bit of meta description copy that is encoded with the web page that is going to show in the search results page. So you can think about the content that you want to have there that's more likely going to get clicked to improve the user experience and the performance of the page. So yeah, meta descriptions, removing duplicates, really big deal for SEO and for being very thorough with how you present your website to search engines.
Yeah, great. Number 4, and it's actually quite similar to what you said, Michael, is removing and renaming duplicate page titles.
Yeah.
So the page title, so we're not talking about the text at the top of the page that would be the headline, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the page title, which is what shows up when you do a Google search.
Mm-hmm.
When you see the blue link, that's the page title that you're seeing. So it's really bad practice to have duplicate page titles. So a good free way to check your page titles is go to screamingfrog.com and download that free piece of software, and it'll suck all of your page titles into a spreadsheet, and you can just sort by page title and see if you've got duplicates. Another thing you can do with your page titles is anywhere, if you're a local business that serves a specific geography, if you have page titles that are about that geography, or if it's your homepage, let's say you're a chiropractor in Portland, you should have Portland inside your page title of your homepage. So every page that's relevant to a geography, make sure you have those geographic modifiers, and also remove outdated or draft versions of content that has really similar page titles. So you might have duplicate posts, maybe 2 blog posts that are really similar, maybe 2 location pages that are really similar. You want to make sure that if there's only one page representative of one piece of content or one geography, right? Would you say anything more about that duplicating?
Yeah. I would say doing a scan, what you suggested, doing a scan is a really easy way to pick this up. A lot of duplicate page titles come about because of a little missed opportunity in the planning of large batches of content. So often what we'll do when we have a new website come in and we're looking for opportunities to build a more robust online presence is we'll often take the major services and identify the sub-services. And then once we're rolling those out, it's easy to make a mistake or to build this content in a spreadsheet first and to have something like the service name and forget to edit and make each of these unique. So you end up with someone who's just punching tickets, doing their job, loading this content to a website, and they're loading 10, 20, 30 pages with the same title. And then that same old problem, you go to the website, you don't see anything broken because you're not noticing in, maybe the
you have to
browser bar.
You have to look at a scan.
Windows 95 machine. Yeah, you have to look on a scan to see this stuff. And you're not seeing pages together when you're bouncing around on the website and saying, do I see anything broken? No, must be okay.
Yeah.
In other words, a non-robust testing protocol.
Right.
The hunt and peck version of website testing.
Yeah.
You're not seeing multiple pages side by side and catching this. So really that scan is really critical for getting above the human point of focus being so limited with somebody just hunting and pecking around a website.
Yeah.
It's really key to start with that scan.
Cool. All right. Last one.
Yeah. Last up, and I'll take this one, remove or update duplicate content. This one's a little tougher because sometimes duplicate content can kind of hide out inside of pages. This doesn't mean that you should never have bits of text that appear in multiple places on your website if there's a reason. What it really means, we come down in a very moderate position on this. What it means is you don't want to have any pages that are so similar to another page on your website. You don't want to have any page on your website that's so similar to another page on your website that it looks and feels and presents itself to search engines like it's about the same thing, about the same topic. However, the balance to this is we often are building large batches of content in a spreadsheet with 50 to 75% of the page being unique and 25% of it being duplicate or boilerplate so that we can roll out content in mass when it's appropriate. I'll give an example. I've mentioned previously in this episode, if you're listening to the full episode, you'll know what I mean, that we often will stage up content and slice and dice it in a spreadsheet first. So URL, page title, first paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph, and then often we're creating sections on a page. So if we have a set of sub-services for a company that we're building out as standalone pages, what we'll often do is have a unique page title, a unique H1, a unique introductory paragraph, and then we might drop in a slice on how we work with clients and have a 1, 2, 3 section. And that may be the same on all these subservices pages. Then
another common one is appointment blogs, like
an appointment blog.
That
may be the same on every page. So we generally try to make sure that we never cross that border of 50% of the content on the page being the same. So, and a way to measure this is just to scrape the text of the entire page, throw it into a word counter, and see how many words you have for all the text. I think about text for this more than I do pixels, but scrape it into a word counter and then just see how many words there are. Say there are 1,000 words, and then go through and delete everything that was unique to that one page, and then hit refresh on your word counter. And if 50% of your words are unique or more, you're good to go. But that slice and dice method for us is a very cost-effective way to create appropriately unique but easily produced pages. And we've never gotten dinged in an SEO program for that approach. We do this with localization pages, with subservices pages, and we've gotten good results. But our line in the sand is 50% of the content being unique to the page, and no two pages on the website trying to do the same thing.
Yep. There you go. All right, that's all for this episode 5. Maintenance items that can improve your SEO. Hope that was helpful for you. Go ahead and follow us on social. We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn under Dodgeball SEO. We're also on Friendster.
Yep.
And
Dodgeball Marketing. Yep.
And actually, we're not on MySpace or Friendster.
Yeah, we're not on MySpace or Friendster.
All the follow us on all the social media sites that matter.
Thank you.